On April 17, 1945, 3 weeks before the Netherlands was liberated, 2 executioners marched a 24-year-old Dutch woman into the sand dunes outside Bloemendaal. The first shot only wounded her. She looked at them and said, "I shoot better than you." The second shot killed her. Her name was Hannie Schaft, and by the time they executed her, she had become the most wanted woman in the occupied Netherlands. Jannetje Johanna Schaft was born on September 16, 1920, in Haarlem, a quiet, beautiful city of canals and cobblestone streets just west of Amsterdam. Her parents were social democrats, political but not radical. They raised her to value education, justice, and the belief that individuals have a responsibility to stand against what is wrong, even when it costs them. Hannie was, by all accounts, exceptionally bright. She enrolled at the University of Amsterdam in 1938 to study law, and she was the kind of student who read ahead, asked difficult questions, and argued passionately about constitutional rights and civil liberties. She was also conspicuous in a way she could not help. She had vivid, unmistakable red hair. In a few years, that hair would make her famous. It would also nearly kill her. When Germany invaded the Netherlands in May 1940, Hannie was 19. The occupation was swift, efficient, and initially almost polite. The Germans considered the Dutch a kindred Germanic people and expected compliance. For the first year, many Dutch citizens did comply. Hannie Schaft did not. When the university required students to sign a loyalty oath to the German occupation authority, she refused. She walked out of the university and never returned. The law student who had dreamed of constitutional justice decided that justice now required something other than courtrooms. Hannie's path into the armed resistance was gradual. She started with small acts, distributing the underground newspaper, hiding Jewish children, forging identity documents. She was one of thousands of ordinary Dutch citizens who quietly refused to cooperate. But Hannie was not ordinary, and the work was not enough. She wanted to fight. In 1943, she made contact with the Raad van Verzet, the Council of Resistance, one of the most active armed resistance organizations in the Netherlands. Through them, she met 2 sisters who would change her life, Truus and Freddie Overstegen, teenage girls from Haarlem who had been active in the resistance since they were 14. Truus was fierce and experienced. Freddie was younger, quieter, but equally committed. Together, the 3 women formed one of the most effective resistance cells in the country. Their work was not abstract. They assassinated German soldiers and Dutch collaborators. They ambushed vehicles. They sabotaged infrastructure. The methods were direct, a pistol often at close range, sometimes after luring a target to an isolated location. These were not battlefield kills from a distance. These were executions of specific individuals identified by resistance intelligence as threats to the network or to the Dutch Jewish community. Hannie proved to be effective and critically willing. Many people could gather intelligence or distribute leaflets. Far fewer could look a man in the face and pull the trigger. Hannie could. It was not something she took pleasure in. Friends and fellow resistors described her as haunted by it, sleepless, tormented by the moral weight of what she was doing. But she did not stop. She believed the calculus was simple. These men were killing innocents and someone had to stop them. By 1944, the German security services knew they were looking for a young woman with red hair. Hannie dyed her hair black, but her description had been circulated to every checkpoint, every police station, every collaborator network in North Holland. She was near the top of the most wanted list, and the net was closing. She continued to operate despite the risk. One of her most significant actions was the attempted assassination of a high-ranking Dutch collaborator and police official who had been responsible for the deportation of Jewish families in Haarlem. Hannie and a partner tracked the target, confirmed his identity, and confronted him at close range. Her pistol jammed. She escaped, but the near miss intensified the hunt. The resistance gave her new identity papers, moved her between safe houses, changed her appearance as much as possible. But Haarlem was a small city, and Hannie refused to leave the region where she had grown up, where her network operated, where the people she was protecting lived. She knew the risk. She also knew that the war was almost over, The Allies were closing from the west and liberation was weeks, perhaps days, away. On March 21, 1945, Hannie was stopped at a German checkpoint near Haarlem. She was carrying underground newspapers and a pistol. There was no plausible explanation. She was arrested, taken to the prison in Amsterdam, and interrogated. The Germans knew who she was, the girl with the red hair, the assassin, the terrorist, the most dangerous woman in the Dutch underground. She did not betray anyone. Under weeks of interrogation, including physical abuse, she gave the Germans nothing. No names, no locations, no operations. She was sentenced to death. The Germans could have waited for the inevitable end of the war, but they chose not to. Hannie Schaft was too symbolic to leave alive. On April 17, 1945, she was taken to the dunes near Bloemendaal for execution. The Netherlands would be liberated on May 5, 18 days later. She was 24 years old. The first executioner fired and only wounded her. According to the account of the second executioner, who was later captured and tried, Hannie looked at them and spoke her last words, "I shoot better than you." The second bullet killed her. When the Netherlands was liberated in May 1945, the story of Hannie Schaft became public. Her body was recovered from the dunes. The Dutch government honored her with a full state funeral, one of the few resistance fighters to receive that recognition. Queen Wilhelmina personally attended the reburial ceremony, and Hannie was interred at the Cemetery of Honor in Bloemendaal, among other fallen resistance heroes. The Oversteegen sisters survived the war. Truus became an artist and sculptor, spending decades creating memorials to the resistance. Freddie married and lived quietly, rarely speaking publicly about what she had done until late in life. Both sisters carried the memory of Hannie with them always. The law student who had refused the loyalty oath, picked up a gun, and never put it down. The executioners who killed Hannie were identified after the war. The man who fired the second fatal shot was tried, convicted, and sentenced. Justice, in the end, found its way, though it arrived too late for the woman who had spent her last years fighting for it. In Haarlem today, there is a statue of Hannie Schaft by the banks of the Spaarne River. A young woman standing alone, looking out over the water, her posture equal parts defiance and sorrow. Every year on April 17th, the anniversary of her execution, a memorial ceremony is held at Bloemendaal. School children lay flowers. Veterans speak. The dunes where she died are quiet and green, and the wind off the North Sea carries no memory of gunshots. Hannie Schaft was not born a soldier. She was born a law student with red hair and a belief in justice. The war made her something else, something harder, something she did not choose but would not refuse. Her story is a reminder that resistance is not only the work of soldiers and generals. Sometimes it is the work of a young woman in a small city who decides, quietly and irrevocably, that she will not look away. If this story moved you, subscribe to follow the Untold Front. New stories every week.